Oh, hi there. I'm here to talk about, well, it might not just be my opinion, but anyway, I know it's going to be wildly unpopular, but the NHL is about making money. I've made that point quite clear in previous videos I've made on hockey. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I feel the business aspect of hockey is a bigger deal than the physical aspect and the skills of the hockey players. Quite often through history, not so much in recent years, but not that long ago, really, 20 years ago, there were hockey players that were out of shape on the teams. Of course, I mean, you get star players from the mid-90s that are obviously, very fit. Mark Messier was quite fit and wasn't really a lazy player or anything like that, but not everyone on the team was necessarily a winner. I mean, some people can recite hockey facts like they know the entire roster of the 1992 Montreal Canadiens. I do not. I mean, there are certain factors on why I don't spend that much time learning, it is sort of interesting information, but it's not going to further my understanding of the game. Okay, I'm going to put it to you this way. There are 12 forwards on a team playing on any given game, 6 defensemen, and 2 goalies. And one of them usually is sitting on the bench the entire time. There's the coach. There's 2 assistant coaches. There are trainers, and there's the GM and probably the owner watching in a private box above in a VIP section. There's more people within that organization than that. There's hundreds of important figures within each hockey team, and maybe even thousands. And then, it slowly goes down the line, and, people become less important, they are less informed, they don't get to make decisions, they get, kind of the, like douchebag version of events. Anyway, and then there are the fans who don't know anything that goes on for the most part. I mean, you do run into a few guys who will have heard a story that didn't make mainstream media about a player, and it's probably true. Like, for example, I had heard that Brent Seabrook's brother a number of years ago had pushed a girl into his pool and called her something like a filthy rat or something like that, or a wet rat. I don't know. I forget the story. I was actually fishing with a friend at a small lake at the time, and I'd had a few beers, so I don't remember that clearly, the entire story. But anyway, I believed it at the time, and I believed it in the sense that I didn't think the guy was lying to me when he was telling me. He may have just had his facts wrong. I don't know. I'm just using that as an example. But I'm telling you, the 20 players that are dressed for an NHL game, an NHL playoff game, are a factor in the team winning or losing for sure, but they are entertainers. They are there to present an image, present a logo, present an organization. And for the most part, their behavior has to be completely impeccable. They're very more stern about that than they used to be, because throughout the years, there have been many hockey players who were, they were just cunts in real life. Not all of them. Some of them were really nice. I'm definitely not saying that they were all bad, but there were a lot of hockey players that were just cunts. It's just as simple as that. I mean, a lot of people were cunts. A lot of people still are cunts. I refuse to believe that you go in the upper echelon of society and people are not cunts. In fact, they're probably worse cunts. I think, anyway. But yeah, there are factors outside of what goes on in that tiny little rink that determine who's going to win the Stanley Cup, or who's going to win that particular game, who's going to get a lot of points in the NHL as far as goals, assists, the team points, and all that sort of stuff. The financial aspect is not widely talked about on the internet, or on television, or newspapers, or anywhere really. You either are in the in crowd, or you're nobody and you don't get to know anything. Like I've met hockey fans who, video record all of the games and watch them all in full detail if they're not sitting there watching them live. They contribute no money, no real money to the sport. I mean, I buy jerseys, so that's got to count for something. But there are some people who have like one, maybe two jerseys, and they have them for like 15 years. Yeah, that's nice that you commit to that, but you're not really financially contributing to the game. And reciting facts, although it's good to be able to train your brain to remember, numbers and statistics and, injury reports and bad refereeing or good goaltending or amazing plays or whatever. That's all good for, your own benefit, so that you're kind of like a computer and all yourself. I'm not so good at that. It's hard for me to look at information that's just blank and generic, written on a computer screen, and take it in and recite it offhand. That's not how my brain works. I mean, I was probably a Viking 2,000 years ago, or 1,000 years ago. So, reading books and stuff like that wouldn't have been something I was doing. Anyway, there are many, many rich people that are involved with every organization. And it's a very mysterious, unknown atmosphere to the outside world, because they're very secretive. They don't want anybody knowing anything. And you may go, well, somebody's going to be a blabbermouth and, go tell everybody about something. And all it'll take is him telling some other blabbermouth, and then all of a sudden a whole bunch of blabbermouths know, and then it just snowballs from there. But the truth is that the rules are so strict, and you break a rule that high up the chain, you will get pushed out. Especially if you're just, behind closed doors, you're a shadow of an organization, like you're just a faceless entity. And some people prefer it to be like that. That they want to remain anonymous. They don't want people knowing who they are. They don't want to be the face of a franchise. Being the face of a franchise comes with its benefits and it comes with its disadvantages. But these people who are all cloak and dagger and mysterious, they're also treacherous, backstabbing, double dealing, and I don't know how the NHL polices, or how individual franchises police having people within their organization stay loyal to the team. Because, it's commonplace that, Americans come up here to work for Canadian organizations. Canadians go down to the States to work for American organizations. And, Players get traded. People just switch sides. There are teams that are, a little bit more amicable with each other as opposed to, outright hating each other. There's organization shuffles where individuals that were there in the board meetings and the drawing boards and the decision making, they get rotated, moved along. Maybe they get old and retire. Who knows? It's a wild, wild world that we don't get to see. It's a party we're not invited to. And I don't know about you guys, but if someone doesn't invite me to a party, I'm gonna go, well, I respect you as a whatever, if you're an NHL player or whoever, but the bottom line is you didn't invite me to the party. You didn't invite any of the common folk to the party. And no, holding a parade is not inviting people to the party. That's completely different. That's inviting, hundreds of thousands of people to come and kiss your ass. That's not the same thing at all. I mean, obviously, they can't, have an open invitation for everyone to come over, because then, it becomes too gigantic to handle. But the thing is, if you're not in the inn, you're a nobody. And people who treat me like a nobody, I ain't gonna suck up to them, no matter who they are. I don't grovel to people who have money. I don't grovel to people who can score all the chicks. And I don't do it. Other people are gonna do it, but I don't. A big part of the reason why I wear hockey jerseys, because I like the style of them. I respect the hockey player as a person and what they're able to do. From what little I know of them, this is an Alex Ovechkin jersey, so I'm sure he's a real nice guy in real life. I've seen some interviews with him. Maybe he could learn to speak English a little bit better, but it seems, genuinely all right. But getting back to my point that 20 players are not the major deciding factor whether a team wins or not. One thing people don't understand is there is so much money in this game. People go on about, oh, this is history. The Nashville Predators have made it to the Stanley Cup final, this, that, and the other. But what you don't understand is this stuff is all televised. It's all history. And how history is told and why it's told are very important things. And there are people who control the media who are very obsessive compulsive on the way it's depicted. They get very angry, very intolerant, and they just can't stand history being painted in whatever light that they don't like the look of. That's understandable because there's a lot of things that aren't particularly good about history. But yeah, my point is every season is history. Every game that's televised is history. It all gets recorded. It all goes on high def now, and it gets put in the archives, and it will be there forever. It may disappear from general circulation, and maybe no one bothered to record it or anything like that, but these days, every NHL game, every interview, everything about the NHL is part of history. Even if you're a nobody and you get drafted and you make an appearance in front of people, that's a real important day for a lot of hockey players, but most of them are not successful afterwards. So that may be their little bit of history as far as the NHL and pro sport goes. And that may be the only thing of that history remembers them of. So that may be all they are, is just some douchebag hockey player that made a short appearance, and nothing noteworthy or significant happened in his career. I guess that's too bad, but the thing is, the reason why so many people fail at making something out of themselves in not just the National Hockey League, but Hollywood, politics, all this sort of stuff. Anybody who's made a serious impact on history is because a lot of people go off in all kinds of directions of what they think they want to do, and they use their cult of personality to establish basically a religion of them. Although a religion of them is, you know, a cult of personality is basically the same thing. As it doesn't necessarily have to do anything with an actual god or anything like that. But yeah, and the reason so many people fail in this attempt is because the government has a hand in the National Hockey League. There's just no getting around it. They're not very good at making controls and mechanisms to create a controlled environment, but also a free one. You may go, well, what do you mean, a controlled environment that's free? Well, I mean, you know, people should be allowed to express their artistic views, or in the case of the National Hockey League, their particular skill and ability and all that. Because it's a very dynamic game. But they can't, because you know, the NHL has its image to protect, and obviously there are certain things that they can't risk them happening. I mean, even for example, the homosexual player named Yuri Tulusti, he was on Toronto, and then I think he went to Detroit. I actually, you know, I don't remember him all that well. He wasn't a particularly good hockey player. You know, there was a news segment where he came out as a homosexual. That is something the NHL doesn't want to be presented much in hockey. You know, they bring about the image that they're tolerant, sophisticated, modern day thinkers, like the Vancouver Canucks having the gay stripes on their jerseys that they wore through one practice or something like that. I didn't look into it. But yeah, there is a certain direction the Hockey League wants to go in, and this particular direction, very dynamic. A lot of things could be done with it. It's you know, just so many possibilities. But there are obviously things that should not be included. And that whole homosexual thing should not be included, if you want my opinion anyway. It's not like it's brought up a lot anyway. I just was using that as an example. But yeah, this whole image that it's 20 hockey players and they're deciding based on how their coaches trained them, how they will, they decide their own fates as far as how an NHL game goes, is not accurate. There are people pulling strings behind closed doors, and none of the general public is to see this stuff. It would make things a hell of a lot more interesting than if we did, because a lot of people look at hockey and they go, oh, this is stupid, there's nothing to be learned here, and then they switch off the TV and forget about it. I don't, because I respect, you know, athletes with great skill. I think it's cool when they're able to do these amazing tricks and perform and entertain people. I think that's really important, but it's the business side I'm more interested in, and there's little to no information about it. Various reasons, because if people just, looked at it from a certain perspective and figured things out, then a lot more people would want in on it, and a lot of the horrible things that come with the cult of personality would come about. Because a lot of horrible things, and it's not just the overly attached girlfriend, although that is a significant issue, because sometimes it'll be a woman going after an important person in a cult of personality, but it's really a guy behind her controlling the strings, or even a lesbian, or anybody, or a bureaucracy, or whatever. And also, the women, they get a bit weird when they see guys who are, physically fit, handsome, wealthy, successful. The concept of women liking hockey players is not a new one, but it's turning to the point where it's just like really creepy. I'll use an example. Miley Cyrus, successful, wealthy, powerful, pretty good looking, even though I don't like her hair too much. It's gotten better. If hypothetically I ever met her at a party or something like that, I would not touch her at all. I would, that's not my idea of success, as sticking it to a woman like her, to be honest with you. I know people go, oh, when you're there, it'd be different, you see things differently, and this is going to be on the in thing, and I look at it and go, no man, when it comes to success, being the best I can, and doing all those sort of things, obviously I don't want the woman to be a loser, but at the same time, as a self-respecting man, I pick up the tab at the restaurants, and call me old-fashioned. I just prefer doing things that way. I don't believe of leeching off of other people's success and their well-being. I prefer to make something of myself as who I am, and it's not the same thing, but it's kind of the same thing as how women think of hockey players. I don't know, it's a whole very complicated subject. Well, I'm gonna say this though. It doesn't happen so much anymore because, we're starting to be less angry as a society. Violent outbursts by groups if teams lose is going down. It has to, because it's just obviously a bad thing. Like the 1994 riots in Vancouver were a bad thing. People got hurt, but the people on the television that were hurt, the people on the news who were seen as doing bad things, the same in 2011, are not the most evil people. The most evil people are the ones who sit in high places, know the law, have connections, and they used to do things like go send a few hired thugs to go cause trouble in that city that had beaten them, or they wanted to beat them and they hated them anyway. And this is like it was a perpetual bad thing. It's supposed to be a joyous, entertaining thing watching hockey, but some people don't know how to handle their emotions. They don't know how to accept defeat for what it is, and they act inappropriately. And then you throw beer in it and it really goes hog wild. But, you know, I like to believe that not all hockey fans are stupid and, you know, quick to anger and have problems, you know, dealing with how things ought to be. I don't think it's that hard. I think it's, I'm not going to use the word common sense because a lot of people misuse that word. A lot of people think what they figure is common sense really isn't, because there are a lot of people out there who think they're more intelligent than they actually are. Me, I'm willing to accept that I'm wrong about things. I'm willing to have an open debate and talk about things, and if someone convinces me that I'm wrong without resorting to petty name calling and insulting or getting angry as a mechanism for them to get their way, you know, can actually come up with a rebuttal, then fair enough. If they cannot though, then it's that old analogy, playing chess with a pigeon. You can't beat them because even if they lose, they're still going to shit on the board and walk all over it like they won. Yeah. The whole upper echelon of important figures, celebrities, hockey players, sports in general and all that, the faces that are there, although they are powerful people, there are people behind them that lurk in the shadows who are more powerful. And yeah, a lot of them really ought to be taken away from power. I certainly don't know anyone who can do that, but I don't know, maybe if we work together as a group, we can figure something out. Anyway, I think I'll leave it at this, and I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one.